Hi, Joanna. How are you today?
Hello, good morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for your time today. It's exciting to
You're
have you
welcome.
here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Instead of me introducing you, I thought, how about I let you introduce yourself to our
Okay,
listeners?
let's do it. So, hi, I'm Joanna Watts. I am a Senior Partnerships Manager in Brand Partnerships here at JAAQ. And if you haven't heard about JAAQ, you need to go straight away to jaaq.org and hear all about it. We are building what we know will be one day the world's leading mental health search engine, and it's something that all of you need to get involved in. Plug aside. I have over 20 years experience in media, marketing and brand partnerships. And I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about that in conjunction with the fact that I'm also a working mum.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. I think the partnership between Wamba and Jack and Booper has been really fantastic. So it's a great opportunity to get to talk to you about your role more, and also from that Wamba perspective of what it was like for you as a high performing working mother. So yeah, I'd love it if you told us a bit about your motherhood journey and a bit about that transition.
Okay, so mine's actually a really interesting one because I consciously left my career as it was before I became a mum. I worked in media and marketing, flitting between media owner and agency side for about 14 years before I became a parent. My career was a massive, massive part of my personality, my life, my ego, my earnings, my joy, my pain, everything. I kind of underestimated how much my career made up of me. I think because I worked so long before I became a parent. I was the classic kind of 90s teen grown into woman, grew up on Spice Girls, you can have it all, whatever you want. It's just going to be a breeze. You can be a career girl, you can be a mum, you can be a hot, you can be housewife of the year and everything in between. And in all honesty, be it the system or the country that we live in or just the nature of being a working parent, it was a lot tougher than I ever imagined when the day came.
What was for you kind of going into it and that transition? What was those biggest challenges that you saw that were unexpected?
In all honesty, Caitlin, it was all practical elements. So I was still the go-getting career girl that I was, but the go-getting career just doesn't align with the number of hours or the location in which you need to be what I consider an active and a present parent. Just the nature of, commuting into town where predominantly my sector is, which was marketing and media. So a lot of the stuff is in the West End. I live out in Hertfordshire. I just wasn't prepared to leave my, at the time, baby at 7 o'clock every morning and come back at 7 o'clock every night. And at the time when I became a parent, it was pre-COVID. So it was still in that era where flexi working was just a really difficult conversation. It was often deemed as a request to do less work. There was zero trust at all in remote working. This was not a thing. I cannot even express to you, you would have been deemed as crazy to work from home part of the week. You used to have to take holiday to take say you had your boiler had blown up or something, you'd have to take a half-day holiday to go meet the gas man. The world was very different then to what it is. So I kind of recognised this before I became a parent, and I actually left my career and set up something completely different, which was something that I could do physically wherever I lived, and I didn't have to basically do the commute. So I went on to do that, and I actually stayed self-employed for about 6 years when my baby was really young so that I could do that. But of course, COVID hit in that time. And in all honesty, it has been the absolute gift to, I think, working parents and particularly working mothers, because it's forced the world into looking at flexi working and flexi location. And I think it proved that people are going to be respectful of it. Again, going back to how important my career is to me, I was never going to be someone that wouldn't deliver. And if anything, it's kind of taught us all that this focused, soulless working time, sometimes remotely or from home, can actually deliver better results at times. And then around that, obviously, it just means that you can physically be more present. So things like drop off, or just the general human element of feeling like I'm not 2 hours away from my daughter if she suddenly felt sick or something. I don't need to be with her all day, but it was just that feeling that it felt really alien to me to leave her for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy for kind of new parents that are coming into this era, because it is a completely different playing field, especially with things like parental leave for fathers now, because that's a whole other dynamic as well, which I know we've spoken about previously.
Yeah.
The juxtaposition, or the non-juxtaposition, I'd say, between male and female role and the impact on your career when you both become parents,
Yeah.
Which is again something that impacted me greatly.
Yeah, it's fascinating just how far leaps and bounds have come with the flexible working, but then it's also slightly concerning again when you hear those conversations about, oh, we're going back to that in-office model, and the reality is it just isn't fit for purpose now for working parents, but even non-working parents. So it's definitely a topic that comes up a lot with organizations, with working parents, and it's the number one thing that flexible working is very important to allow that balance. I find it interesting that your solution for that was at the time, so pre-COVID, was, you know what, I'll just do my own thing. It was to create your own business.
Typical Joanna.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably the only person who would think I'm going to go off and have a baby. So what I'll do just to make that easier is to start my own business and become self-employed.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
At the time in my relationship, I also was married, and that person literally was also self-employed. So it was just like a bit of a crazy time, but it enabled us to have the flexibility and for one of us to be at home and, you know, to be the parent that I absolutely felt so passionately that I wanted to be. I'm such a believer in that 0 to 7 is such a formative platform. My daughter's now 8. And to be honest, my priority at that point was to maintain my CV, but obviously bring in the money I needed to earn, but wholeheartedly be the parent that I want to always look back on and know that I achieved for her, which I feel proud that I was able to do. But it took major changes, which was kind of ridiculous, really, just down to the system that we live in was slightly broken.
Yeah. Now, looking back with that hindsight, in terms of career perspective, do you feel like the choices that you made at the time, you would make those again?
I would for her.
Yeah.
But the price that you pay, so progression in your career, I'm that classic person that I'm doing a role now that's less in responsibility and money than I did before when I was a parent. Again, my own choice, because it's about what I can manage and still be a present parent. And I think the other things that is just, again, such a shock, and I don't want to scare anyone that's looking at becoming a parent and facing the juggle, but for a long period of time, what I earned paid for her childcare or her nursery and basic costs. So I was literally working to maintain my CV so that when she was old enough, which for me was probably 5, when they go to a slightly longer school day, I could still have a career to go back to, which I have done. So it was worth it, but there's a real injustice around that. And again, I know that across Europe, we're one of the countries that has the most shocking, childcare expense rate versus what our income is. Yeah. And again, that's something that, honestly, I had been that person in my 20s, very blasé about these topics. Classic, if it doesn't affect you, you're not aware. Yes. And I cannot explain how much of a shock it was to someone who formerly had such a solid career and such a solid earning power. It was tough, I'm not going to lie, because it affects your confidence, it affects your lifestyle, silly things like, making sure that you've still got enough to go and have a nice haircut, or things that are general, like welfare. Like, I'm what would be considered in a privileged position. I've got food, hot water, support, a car, all of these things. But if I look across the kind of society, I can't imagine some of the challenges that other people are having at that period of time in their life. And then you've got things that obviously like single parents or parents of children with additional needs, or disabled parents and things like that. And I can't imagine some of the challenges that some working parents must still be facing today.
Yeah, and in terms of that, with that mental health side of things, because in particular, I think when you talk around that confidence and, simple things about getting your haircut, that's part of who you are as a person, how you keep your identity, and then you're also changing your identity when you're becoming a new mother, and there's so many different things. So and you're juggling all these priorities. So what did you find really helped with in terms of keeping your mental health and balance around that?
Yeah, so gratitude is first and foremost. So I'm well aware, as I just mentioned, that I've got so much to be grateful for, and I think having a healthy child and a child to even look after, Caitlin was just like, I was ecstatic I've become a mum. It's almost like everything else I just would manage, and I still feel like that to this day. I just feel like some of it was really unnecessarily tough. I'm also speaking from quite a unique position where I had a partner who wasn't actually able to also take any of the childcare, who worked abroad, and again, a lot of the time away, or different visits or trips or commitments. So I think it was just probably a bit of a double whammy. So again, having a supportive partner would be something that someone else might not find as tricky to juggle, all the drop-offs and the pickups and stuff like that. So again, not wanting to scare anyone about working with a child, but that sort of single parent setup can be quite challenging. Again, huge pressure on the one person.
And I think another thing that comes to mind is why it's important to build your kind of network around you, your support network. So whether that's, friends, family, and not everyone has that as well. So, but it's being conscious that I heard recently, so in Germany, there's a lot of, it's hard to find school care. So actually what families have done, they've come together and the parents take, so there's 5 families and each parent will take one day off a week. So they'll have all the kids on
so cool.
one day. Yeah, and they've kind of figured out a real community way to do it, because there's just not the resources and, they've got the money for childcare, but there's no facilities available. So it's just really interesting, the solutions that people come up with.
And actually, you've just sort of highlighted, it's almost going back to our roots, that community. It takes a village to raise a child, etc. How ironic that people are leaning back into those kind of mechanics. We've probably gone full circle, complicated things ourselves, probably, and then we're going back to our roots.
And really having that vulnerability to say, hey, actually, I do need some help and I do need some support. Because I know there were times that people wanted to manage it at home and manage it internally, but
however, I do think things have moved on. So I used to spend hours going through job specs, and I would get to the bottom of the job spec and think I can do it, and then it would say 5 days Tottenham Court Road, or must be in at 9 a.m. or something silly like that, and I would be fully, absolutely invested, excited by the time I read to the bottom, and I'd realise, if I take this on, I'm going to constantly, every single day, feel like I can't deliver. And it was things like, I can get to London by 9 each day after school drop-off. So for some employees, that was not acceptable, because, I'm never going to not give back the 20 minutes at the end of the day or lunchtime. It was a crazy time. So, and again, it's all about a little bit like relationships in life, whether that's friendships or love or whatever. It's about finding your kind of mirror partner, and I think the company that you work for, the workplace that you work for, also is something that you really need to look at: the culture, the attitude towards working parents, the policies, etc. And obviously, being here now at JAAQ, we have a flexi working policy for everybody, whether you have a child or you don't. There is so much trust. I can't explain to you what a game changer it's been to my mental health to know that if my daughter has a little wobble at school drop off at 7:45, if I miss the 8:02, nobody here is looking for me. I can arrive without explanation and be completely trusted that I'm still going to bring the same value to the company and our mission that day. And it's just, it's changed my mental health, because I am very conscientious. I used to constantly worry about sort of letting work down, but once you've removed that, you've got this freedom to arrive and then do your best job without all that stress. So again, it's very much on yourself to find a home for yourself, for your work that works for you, but also on the employers to create that environment to get the best out of their working parents. So I can't stress that enough, that things have improved, but also with my confidence knowing that I needed to find somewhere to work that could give that for me and my daughter as well. So it's, once you've got it, it really is gold. It's worth money in itself, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think the fact, it really sounds like you you knew also how to advocate for yourself going into whatever next kind of career choice and saying,
Yeah.
this is actually my priority. This is what
Yeah.
I want. It doesn't mean I'm going to work any less hard. It's just that
Yeah.
I also
It is
have a life.
so true, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Like, I had the confidence here to say, I am Joanna, this is my CV, this is all the amazing things I want to be able to do for you. But just occasionally, if my daughter's upset in the morning, or I'm going to come in 10 minutes later, is that a problem? And I actually said it at the meeting, and here at JAAQ, they basically just sort of laughed at me, and both the directors that interviewed me were like, look, we've got children. And it sounded like they've got pets then. We've got children, and we speak your language. You don't even need to explain. And once someone had taken that away from me, it was just such a huge relief. And obviously we work, so we're in the mental health space, but also we're in the wellbeing at work space. I mean, it's a huge passion area for us here at JAAQ. Yeah. So we have to walk the talk, if that makes sense. Absolutely. And that's something that I know is a privilege. Not everybody has that in their workplace yet, but we at JAAQ are obviously trying to help other companies as well to be educated and truly understand that, honestly, it's a game changer once you treat your working parents with just a little bit more trust and respect.
Yeah. Which is why, you know, at Wamba, we're so pleased to have partnered with you in this space and be able to provide some of that guidance around, you know, actually what you can do as a working parent, how you can advocate for yourself, what kind of questions come up that may feel scary to ask your employer, you know, because everyone does have different employment situations, but actually the world has changed, the world has moved on, and it should be okay to have these conversations. Because, you know, you're raising the next generation. That's the reality. So
it's ironic that the only sort of two sure things, you know, like raise, you know, the next generation coming through and the old generation going, and one of them is still taboo to mention at your job. It would just seems crazy when we look back. But I was very much sort of raised professionally in that old school of like, you pack your personal life at the bottom of the stairs before you go up to the office, and you don't tell anyone what you're doing, you don't tell anyone if you're stressed. And I can definitely still be like that a little bit sometimes. I kind of just see it as being professional, but I think maybe that's a generational thing as well for kind of my age group and upwards, that we need to relearn that it's okay to have an honest conversation about your home life in relation to the level of commitment that you can offer to a company. And it's almost like that could be like a sub kind of workshop almost for Wamba. It's like actually having the conversation or building the confidence to say.
Yeah, courageous conversations, very, very important. And it is always, you know, working parents, especially when they've taken time off coming back to work, we do, you know, work in terms of that coaching around, because there's a lot of confidence lost there. And it's like, no, you actually have a lot of value. You've had a career. You being a working parent actually brings another level, another lens that's actually really important to your role. So just reminding them, you're absolutely able to do this.
And also, because of the length of time that women tend to have off, I think that is a female problem still, versus when a man becomes a parent. Certainly in my household, the other parent's career was not impacted whatsoever, and I took the full brunt, probably voluntarily at the time. But again, there's such a disparity in how women are then affected in career progression and financially. Yeah. And here's some absolute horror stories about women that can just never get back to having financial independence again after becoming a parent. And again, I feel like that's a massively unreported area, and an area that needs education around as well. It's something that, as a mother of a daughter, I'm definitely going to be educating her in. Yeah. It wasn't on my education to protect myself in that process. And again, it might be that it was just my own personal circumstances, because my partner had such a sort of demanding international career. But yeah, again, it seems really sad that women are still suffering in that way in 2020.
Absolutely, and we did another video on that research around the gender pay gap, and that it really starts when at the time of having families and how that grows. So it's definitely research backed there. Very important. I am conscious of time and I really appreciate everything. Is there any further imparting wisdom you'd love to share?
Yes, I think that obviously we have focused on some of the negatives around
yeah.
So first and foremost, it's to say have those babies. It's the best thing you'll ever do. Like being a mother, I watched back 8 years on a clip when I first met my daughter in my arms the other day, and it's just indescribable and worth every single other little or large hurdle that you have to go through. So that's the first point. The second point is to reach out to other working women who may have older children or have gone through this process. So I was very naive, as I referred to that kind of like Spice Girl mentality of I can have it all. And the second thing, I would love to encourage my younger colleagues to come and talk to me about that process and that part of their life. I had a conversation with a colleague this week about managing the sleepless nights in year one. And it's just so good to just talk it through. And I was so honest, and I was explaining that you pretty much run on adrenaline and you'll be fine for year one. It's probably year 4 that you'll need my help and guidance.
Yeah.
But it's just things like that. So leaning into parents who've walked the path before you. I didn't really reach out to anybody at that time, and just getting practical tips and also just emotional support through the process is just, worth its weight in gold at getting you through those initial formative years of becoming a parent at work.
Amazing. Yeah, I really love your journey of, you're still a exceptional career woman kicking ass out there.
Yes.
But you clearly also love being a mother, and you've spoken about the hardships, and that's the reality, but also, you wouldn't change it for the world. So
I wouldn't. And what I would say is that there's this period of time where you might have to just change your behaviour or slow down. But once your child goes to school, which they need anyway, because they need to have social interaction and independence, for me, that's where I'm at now. And I'm so focused again on my career. And obviously, my new role here at JAAQ is just such a timely, ethically aligned project to work on. So I couldn't be in a happier place. So again, a message of hope is that you might have sort of 0 to 5, 0 to 7 years where things are different, but it's not forever. And I think a lot of people feel like their career is gone, or certainly the momentum that you can have is gone. And I'm basically telling you that it's there for the taking when you're ready to return. There's also obviously some people that keep momentum up through that. It just depends on the style of parenting that you want to do. And I think also your setup at home is hugely impactful, and each person's is unique. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I also the other side is that I also really appreciate that this was your journey, and that the decisions were for you. And what I'm trying to say is I know that there's a lot of women that want to be stay-at-home mothers, and that's also okay too. I know that we're saying that, but I'm really pleased that, for your journey and where you wanted to go, you chose your hard, and it was hard, but it meant that it allowed you to align with yourself and who you wanted to be, as well as raising
Exactly. It was that perfect balance, but just not without challenge. But then most of the things we do, which are amazing in life, tend to have challenges attached. So it's part of the journey and the process as well.
Amazing. Again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
It's great to see you, and no doubt we'll get you back on here again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Mamba.
Thank you. Bye.